Welcome back to the Flyin podcast. This is our fourth episode here. I'm joined today with Sam and Zach again. One day I think we'll get somebody else in here. We had some good games this past week. One probably a lot better than the other, I would say personally. But we had Pittsburgh in the U.S. Open Cup game, FC with a nice 3-1 win, and then a 1-1 draw away at Vancouver. So we'll kick it off here. We'll get into it, discuss a little bit about these past two games, and then later on in the episode, we'll chat a little bit more about some of the upcoming games, some of our transfers that we are hoping to bring in, but we'll actually mainly touch on the one that was announced this past week, actually. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. But Sam, kick us off. What do you think of both the games this past week?
Yeah, we'll kind of go in order. I'm assuming we'll talk about the Open Cup game first because, boys, we're going to the semifinals. This is going to be electric. I'm super excited. Taking on Inter Miami in the semifinals. Maybe a little more of a word on that later in the pod. But great to see. I thought this was just like a great team win. This was so much better than the previous Open Cup match. Obviously, the previous one came down to penalties, right? And it was just sloppy. Defense looked terrible. Like, I thought this game, they really stepped up. You have everyone kind of involved. Like I said, great team win. I mean, it's nice to see Vasquez get on the scoring sheet again. Nice to see Arias get on the scoring sheet, too. Obviously, Barriel's been doing his thing. So, what a goal, by the way. Like, and I think I tweeted it out or I said something like, in my opinion, greatest goal of FC Cincinnati history right there. Just like skill wise, that was insane. Upper 90, like off the left part of the left boot. Oh my gosh, just what a banger. It was just
anyone who's ever kicked a soccer ball knows how difficult
so hard. Off a ball, off of first touch, off a volley from a corner.
Freaking believable.
It was insane. But I mean, first half was a little sloppy, right? Picking up 3 yellows in the first half, not really what you want to see. But they definitely, stepped it up in the second half. And I mean, like I said, great win. Glad we're in the semifinals, but I think it was like letting up that last goal was like, really, like, that's fine. Like, everybody was kind of just done with the game at that point, so it was just a gimme. So, but yeah, those are kind of my takes on the Open Cup game.
Yeah, so with the Open Cup game, I did not see it live, unfortunately. So I'm not a fan of that. Seeing things get spoiled is just so hard. Like getting texts from the both of you boys, just saying all these texts from Ariel. Yeah, you did. I was like, once I saw those texts, I was like, I just gotta go look at this. Like, but no, that it was amazing game. I watched the replay, but just given what the circumstances were already with us winning and moving on, it was still an enjoyable game to watch. Just because, like you said, Sam, I think they played as a team that game, and it was awesome seeing everybody kind of interchanging quite often. A lot of like young blood in there, so seeing some of those younger players and getting minutes, I think that's valuable, especially coming up within the season. Just finishing through the middle of the season, I think it's pretty important. But
especially when you can do that in a cup game like that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Win 3-1 like that. Right. That's a big deal. It's nice seeing Vasquez get on the scoreboard, giving him a little bit more confidence. As you guys probably saw the episode notes, I probably will have some more things to speak about later. But
sneak peek.
The overall, I thought the Pittsburgh game was well played.
Yeah, I would echo both of you. First half, I was actually at the game live, and first half I was just bored out of my mind. I think everyone in the stadium was kind of like, all right, guys, like, are we here? Are we showing up, or what's going on? But I want to say it's the first Open Cup game I've been to actually since the New York Red Bulls semifinal game in 2017. I had to go back and think about that because a lot of the last couple years in Open Cup games, I haven't been able to make it. So to actually go to the game and be a part of like a cup run like that, and the atmosphere was pretty good. Actually, I felt like even though the club had, sectioned off the area, at least on TV, it made it look good. But it was just weird to see half the stadium just empty. And almost in some ways, we were chatting. I went with my friend Kevin, so shout out Kevin. We were just chatting about, how they could have filled in the bottom rows or the bottom section a little bit more, create a better atmosphere behind some of the goals. But overall, just awesome win. Second half, we turned it on a little bit more. I think there needs to be a shout about how Nick Hagelin goes back out of the game. Actually, he plays the full half. We don't see him get into an injury or a tackle per se, but felt some tightness behind his knee is what was reported. So, hoping that he can actually get back in there and get healthy. We need him with especially a couple of the announcements that are coming up. Based on international people, based on other injuries. So we'll see how that plays out, but definitely excited about a 3-1 win. I felt like Arias's header could have probably gone through the net. I don't know if you guys saw the replay of that off the corner, but
absolute bullet.
That was probably the fastest header I've ever seen as well. So pretty cool to see that. Looking forward to another home match coming up for the semifinal. I know that was announced the next day. Pretty pumped about that one. Season ticket holders are going to get kind of first access to those tickets. Probably going to try to get my hands on a couple of those to see if we can get a good crowd going there in our section. But definitely excited about the game to come. More about just being in a semifinal, maybe not as much about who we're playing, with the exception, obviously, of who we're going to talk about. But
yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
I'm really afraid that's actually the day I leave for Italy, so I am not going to be able to make that game.
Man,
I was like, Emily,
for Italy.
Yeah, I was like, I might just skip that just to see that, but I got other games.
Yeah.
Don't worry, no worries.
Plenty of other games, and we have a final that we have to look forward to, hopefully too.
Yeah, it's for certain.
I mean, by then the Italy trip will probably cost as much as the tickets. So
fair enough. Yeah,
that's true. You probably pay off your freaking trip with those. To be honest with you, shout out to all those people out there buying tickets for games that Messi's not even going to be at. Anyway, so besides the Pittsburgh game, do you guys want to touch any more on that part of things or the Open Cup in general? I think one final point I wanted to mention was the allocation for the final game actually came out as well. Okay. So FC, obviously is playing a home match. It looked like, I think Real Salt Lake is playing Houston. Houston, I believe, did not even put their bid in to host the final. And Real Salt Lake is the top person, or a top team, I should say, that would host the final. So if we win, if Houston wins, we host the final. If we win, Real Salt Lake wins, they host. If Inter Miami wins, they would trump us. And then depending on the result of the Houston's Real Salt Lake game. So kind of interesting how that was drawn out there. I would much prefer a home final match, but really going to be a big Houston fan on August 22nd or 23rd. Forget which day it is, but any other thoughts about that?
No, I'm just super stoked, like you said. I mean, getting to host the semifinal. I mean, like I said earlier, we'll probably touch on that a little bit more on the Messi news, but yeah, I'm super stoked on where the team's going.
I think an interesting point about the semifinal, everyone's calling for the game to be played at Paycor. And I'm thinking, like,
yeah,
okay,
I saw that. I thought
bigger crowd, but we built a soccer specific stadium for this reason.
Yeah, shout out Pat Bryant, by the way. Yeah.
If we go and we play at Paycor, that's a turf field. I don't think Messi even goes and plays in that. So,
no.
I think there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
So definitely excited about that game. We'll talk, I think, a little bit more about that part of things later, actually, in my card of the week. But let's switch over to our Saturday game. It was a late one, boys. Did you stay up for the game, or did anyone pass out on that?
No, I was highlights. I was at a grad party, so I was definitely watching the highlights next day.
Okay, Zach, what about you?
MLS After Dark, you got to be there.
That's right. It's a weird time to watch, but
where the funny stuff happens.
it actually really is. It's true.
The analysts get delirious.
Oh yeah. And usually they're some of the best games of the weekend too. Just with
That's true.
With always probably playing West Coast teams. I feel like the Western Conference is just bananas.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
It always seems to be that way, but there's some crazy goals that were scored in both conferences. I mean, we had flicks over the goalkeeper, goals from over midfield. I mean, just some crazy stuff going on in the MLS. So exciting to watch, though. I mean, definitely is fun to actually follow the MLS more now that our team is, in first place. It's like, okay, I'm actually more interested in some of what the other teams are doing now and a little bit more invested to seeing like, oh, Nashville tied. All right, I like that.
and Ryan, another point to enjoying watching at night, you actually get to watch. I enjoyed watching the MLS 360 personally.
Yeah.
I think it's there. I think they're still figuring things out, but I think it's such a great idea just being able to like stay up to date on like the other teams and like seeing how the other teams are doing, because half the time you're like, I'm only going to watch my team, but if they're all on right in front of you, I might as well watch them all.
Apple TV makes it definitely easier to pay attention to it, I think, before FS1's playing, this game at 4 o'clock, or, maybe you get to see one other one, but I'm actually following a little bit more of the games. 360 shows some highlights. I feel like they could do a little bit better of a job of spreading the wealth on some of the highlights during that 360. But that's a separate conversation, I think, for that one.
It's a continuous conversation.
Yeah. Sure. So the Saturday night game, away at Vancouver, I was actually in St. Louis this weekend. I watched on my phone. My dad and I actually got to watch most of the game, and we were at a family event, and we were making faces as the game was going on. And I think everyone could sense our frustration, and I think that could be kind of shared around the fan base. Again, another first half where it seems like we have a lot of opportunities. We don't dominate possession. They have a fair share of chances where I felt like Brian White or Ben White, I forget his first name. Maybe you guys could help me on. Is it Ben White or Brian?
I think it's Brian.
It's Brian White. Yeah.
Brian, yeah. Ben White's Arsenal.
I was gonna say.
That's true. That's a good shout. He tried chipping Celentano a couple different times, so that worried me a little bit there.
Cheeky.
But
yeah. He's just not
your thoughts of what's that?
I said he's not like a Costa though.
Yeah, he did not perfect it like Acosta did. That's for sure. Any thoughts on the first half of the Vancouver game?
I mean, overall, I thought this game was super even. Like, I mean, both sides had a lot of great chances to go ahead. I mean, Vancouver jumped out early. They had that long strike for goal that was just off on the right-hand side. But I mean, it was kind of back and forth, I think, with good chances, like I said. And then, another incredible goal by Acosta saves the day for FC Cincinnati. Like, I mean, when are we gonna get sick of this? I mean, I'm never gonna get sick of seeing Acosta just save the day. I mean, obviously it's not ideal, but I mean, what a ball from Matt Miazga, first of all. Like, let's give him his flowers. Like, that was a beautiful long ball and great awareness.
The second part of what happened, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I also on top of the game in general, it was a weird atmosphere to the game though. I mean, really cool stadium as far as the roof and stuff, but whenever you go to Vancouver, it's just being indoors like that. There's not a lot of energy. It's just that you can almost like, it looks like, now I'm not, obviously we weren't there in Vancouver, but it feels like you could just hear the air conditioners. Like that's the type of place that like it looks like,
Damn, that's a good comparison.
That's true.
But yeah, so I thought all in all, I mean, it was pretty even. And I mean, you hate to get, a draw, especially when Vasquez gives up the penalty. You just feel like you should have gotten that win. But I'll take a draw against, another West Coast team to kind of get out our West Coast schedule, if you will, to finish that off.
Yeah, I think you're right. That was our last West Coast game of the year, I believe. At least, like obviously, Vancouver is the furthest game that you can go to. But like we had talked about in the last podcast, they were a solid team at home. So really, and a high scoring team too. So to keep them only to 1 goal, really off a PK like that, pretty solid. Playing on a different surface. FC had, I think, only drawn on turf in their last like 12 games. They haven't won on turf in, I think, 12 or
Bad
13
record.
games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely I guess a little bit frustrated by the result, but at the same time, like happy to get a point, happy to go on this break a little bit. But Zach, what did you see during part of the game?
Yeah, there was quite a few things, call outs that I'd like to make, and it kind of ties into my card of the week as well, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
But
You can
mostly
shout it now if you want.
I'm just gonna go through each minute, like the 12th minute and the 13th minute. The 12th minute when Vasquez took those 3 players on was amazing. And almost scored between I can't remember this goalie's name, and I'm gonna butcher his name, but it's like Tawaka or something.
Waka, yeah.
That was pretty awesome. If he had scored that, it'd be reminiscent of that. Who's is it Maddox when he took on Orlando? Yeah. Their whole defense. God, I think we were still at Nippert then.
2019, yeah.
Man, that was an amazing goal. But yeah, moving on, we've got that cross from Powell that Vasquez absolutely whiffed on and should have had, and went over to Barreal, and he had a pretty decent shot, all things considered. But
the commentators said, "What a pass by Vasquez."
Yeah, I did catch that. That was a very good point. But yeah, it's
like you're
just
saving the man from a brutal play on the ball there. But
exactly.
Yeah.
That was a very frustrating moment. And then the Baji chance was really close as well. Like later in the half, when the I think it was Barreal shot and it kind of deflected and he was right in front of goal. If that Vancouver guy, if he like just chipped it up in the air slightly or just shot it in the air a little bit, I think he would have had an easy goal there. That was frustrating. And then the other Vasquez chance where he had the header miss like right in front of the six yard box. Like, I mean, it was a missile of a pass. I mean, Barreal doesn't put any slowness on those, but I feel like you got to put that on target at least. Like, but all in all, I mean, we had that beautiful Costa goal in final minutes of the match, taken away by Miazga's PK, but still was all in all, it was a fun game to watch, being end to end most of the game. So I was entertained.
Yeah. You, I think, had tweeted that out at one point too. You're like, how do you not love the after dark games like this and with the entertainment factor of it?
Right. Exactly.
I think my one tweet kind of goes off of your point of, I was like, Vasquez, you got to do better with your chances, man. Like he's putting himself in good positions. And I saw that in the Pittsburgh game. First half, he gets in a good position, left-footed shot right at the keeper. Second half, gets a ball, maybe onside, maybe offside, whatever you guys want to call it. No VAR in the Open Cup, so we'll take a nice left-footed goal on that one, slot it away.
Right.
But I felt like in Vancouver, it's again different playing surface. You're playing out west. I'm going to give him some of the benefit of the doubt. He's at least in the positions, but taking it to the next level. Let's see if the U.S. national team call-up does anything for his confidence, and maybe playing with some other strikers that are going to push him. How does that help him in some ways too? Or even with a new transfer coming in, I feel like we'll touch on that here in a little bit, but I think that's definitely going to add and hopefully, improve his finishing. So Zach, to tie into Acosta here, I got our trivia question of the week. Are you guys ready for it?
Right on.
All right. So our trivia question of the week, Luciano Acosta has been playing in MLS since 2016. He played with DC United back then. Since then, he's had 49 goals and 67 assists in all MLS competitions. Against which team did he get his first MLS assist?
So he came in was it 2020 or 2021?
He came into the league in 2016. Came
No,
back
yeah,
to
yeah, I
FC in
know, yeah,
2021.
yeah. Trying to think. Well, obviously for us, but DC United. It's just the team that I see in front of me who FC plays next, but I'm gonna go with Toronto FC.
All right, Sam has Toronto locked in. Zach, who did Lucho get his first assist in the MLS against?
It's funny you asked that question. I don't even know what new teams have been added since then. I'm gonna say a team that's probably been added after the fact, but I was gonna say the Columbus Crew.
Columbus Crew. All right.
Anything
So
against the
stay
Columbus
tuned.
Crew is a win.
That's true. That's true. Stay tuned. Later in the episode, we'll give you our trivia answer here. Rolling along, I think I wanted to real quickly kind of shout out FC as our roster in general. We've actually used the least amount of players in all competitions of any team in the league. We've used 20 different players. So shout out, first half of the season to the boys. We're halfway there. But for having 20 guys play, I mean, lowest amount compared to everyone else, pretty dang amazing what they've done over this stretch. So props
Hey,
to Pat for rotations and props to the boys for showing out every game.
Ryan, do you have the next lowest? I don't know if you had that stat, but
I want to say it was Columbus. I could be wrong on that.
okay.
I think they were up there. Maybe Dallas was the next best team, but I can look that up for you.
Oh, no worries. I was just
Pretty
curious.
interesting though. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you field 11 guys and you have 5 subs. So, really outside of that, we've only used, how many other guys besides that? We talk about how we have good depth and our depth is meaningful depth. Guys that can come in, like Kubo starts the game for us. I feel like plays a decent game in Lucho's absence, makes some things happen. Towards the end of the game, I felt like he had a possession where Lucho wins the ball from one of the defenders. We go right at the guy with Kubo, having the option to play Acosta out wide and instead shoots. So there's some places where I like Kubo shooting, and there's other areas where it's like, if we have a clear look at goal, man, you got to pass it. So
yep.
I feel like some of our depth has been quality. So Sam, what do you think about that point?
Yeah, I mean, to your guys' point, I mean that's incredible. That we've been able to have a very solid rotation of guys in and out, and not that many people having to come off. I think we've been really lucky with the minimal injuries that we've had. I mean, usually
Yeah,
during
true.
an MLS season, you're going from grass to turf, back to grass and turf again, right? So just that mix of the different turfs, as well as, we've been in Colorado, we've been in Vancouver. Those are high altitude places, right? That can also affect your system as well. But I mean, to that point as well, our guys are tired. This is
Yeah,
definitely a break that is much needed. So
right.
the fact that we're going into this international break, I don't mind it at all. And I think we're gonna come back with some much needed energy. Hopefully, now knock on wood, nobody comes back with any injuries or anything,
That's a good
and
shout.
that we can just get some rest and then come back into the regular season and continue what we've been going into, and then we'll take that into the All-Star break.
Ice baths all day, baby.
Yeah,
I was
I
gonna say.
think. Go ahead, Zach.
I was gonna say it's thankful for the international break, but then it's like it's gonna come real fast. I mean, it's like a week and a half, right?
Yeah.
If I remember, it's like the Wednesday after next week. So um, it's really not a big break, but it's hopefully it's enough to get them back in shape. But I'm so worried about our back line, just heavy legs, and then you got Haglin out, so it's like our next depth piece is Zach Panonu, and how many minutes does he doesn't
Right.
have any minutes in MLS, so he might need to pick up some slack here coming into the second half of the season. But hey, I'm all for one loss in half a season. I mean,
Pretty amazing.
many MLS teams can't say they've done that, so I think we're making
Right.
waves for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely more excited to be in our position than some other teams at this point, no matter, moving forward, all the future things we know about, at least with people being out and stuff. Hey, we got a little bit of a buffer.
Yeah.
So that's always nice. So I guess we can kind of roll into our jersey swaps. I think this would be a good point. We're kind of shouting out some of the guys. I'm going to start with mine. My jersey swap of the week was Mr. Barrial. What an amazing goal. Like we talked about earlier, probably the best goal I've seen live. Out of the air, takes it, unbelievable finish. Has some unbelievable service into the box. Really allowing the guys to attack the ball in some ways. I feel like he is one of our more valuable players for the attack. As a traditional wing back, you're getting service, but he actually kind of finds his way into the middle sometimes too, and can be dangerous. There's not really an MLS team that has a good response for him when teams are trying to mark two strikers and Lucho running around. I mean, Alvaro's got his time and space to kind of run at people, to play through balls, and he's just been so dangerous. So, Mr. Barrial, I'd like to swap jerseys with you this week.
There you go.
Sam, who was your jersey swap of the week?
Yeah, my jersey swap of the week would probably have to be Santiago Arias. I think as a week, he's had a great week. He's finally getting into his form that we thought he would.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, love to see him get on the scoring sheet as well as assisting. And then, that header, right, that he did score, like you said, that was
Yeah.
just a fiery header, like came out of nowhere, came flying in. Like that's the kind of energy that I feel like he's feeding off of. And we didn't really see that when he first came into the squad, right? He was kind of slow, sluggish to get going. But now I think he's feeding off of the energy that we have. He sees that FC Cincinnati is a good team. I mean, maybe it's not Atletico Madrid, but like, we're making waves, like Zach said, here in the MLS this season. And it looks like he's the free agent find that we were all hoping for. So I'm very happy to see all of our wingers kind of being connected, being on the same page. Nice to see, the rotation of the older guys on the right-hand side with the younger guy on the left-hand side, right? But yeah,
true.
my jersey swap is going to be Santiago Arias.
Awesome.
Sam, do you think that quick, I guess, question for you about Arias?
Yeah.
Do you feel like Arias? I know he's got a ton of experience right back. Do you think he can slot into a center back position if we need him to?
I mean, probably. I mean, he could probably do just as good as Alvis Powell did. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
Alvis played pretty well.
well, I think Arias has, a lot of versatility to him, right? And having the experience he does, he can not only be utilized on the outside, but probably on the inside as well if we need that depth, right? That Zach was talking about. A lot of our guys are going to be coming back from international break, and our younger guys don't really have the caps that they need. So some of those wingers may need to play different positions to kind of glue together this back line that we may end up seeing here in the future. But for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Good shout.
Yeah.
Definitely like that. Zach,
Good
who's
shout.
your jersey swap of the week?
I would say good shout minus the Alvis Powell bash, because he is my jersey swap of the week. I think he's done fantastic given the minutes that he's put in. He's had great clearances. I always love his, like, every game he does some sort of like karate kick, like scissor kick or something. Like he's just fun to watch. Like you don't know what you're gonna get out of him. It's like from what I've noticed, he's like he just looks so reckless on the ball when he's dribbling. Like you said, Ryan, I think in a previously, like he can only dribble straight. If he moves like to the side, he's done. But other than that, I mean, he's kind of like a deer in a way for some reason. Like he reminds me of a deer. Like
it's like trotting.
He's reckless, but like I've also noticed he doesn't have any yellow cards this season, which is like absolutely surprising. Yeah, at least in the MLS. I don't think he played much in the Open Cup, but
dang, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was a fascinating stat given how like just interesting his play style is. But I mean, he had that almost assist in the
almost assist,
Vancouver game where Vasquez whiffed. But I mean, yeah, I think he's been fantastic for the minutes he's played.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. We even talked about it last time. We had seen him kind of fill in at center back. We've seen him out wide. Coming up, he's going to be playing, I would imagine, a little bit more center back with Miazga being called up to the U.S. men's national team. So at least quickly today, that was our big announcement. We had Miazga and actually Vasquez, called up for the Gold Cup. So it sounds like they're going to be missing some games. Some guys are going to have to step up. Our buffer is definitely going to be nice to have a little bit, but they've surprised us every step of the way this year so far. So I'm really excited to see how we respond. It doesn't sound like our new signing. Sorry to ruin that surprise for everyone. If you didn't know about this, I don't know where you've been or why you're listening to this podcast and you haven't heard. But Aaron Bupenza is being transferred in, reported here in the past week for $7 million. He's a left-footed striker. Apparently everyone is really fixated on the fact that he's left-footed. But he drops in a little bit like Brenner does. So
so I guess the whole reason I feel like everybody is kind of fascinated by the whole left foot, right, is because you have Vasquez, who's right-footed, right, who usually plays on that right-hand side. So it kind of that left foot, right foot, perfectly complements kind of our attacking up top, if you will, right? So I feel like that would be kind of the hype around it. But yeah, I think this is a phenomenal signing. Obviously, one of those guys that in the past 2-3 years, you've seen his transfer market value rise exponentially. I was looking the other day. I think he went from like 450K all the way up to 7 million off of like one transfer to the Saudi league. But yeah, so I think we're getting a steal out of him, to be honest with you. I mean, we're according to all the numbers and everything, we're getting him for 1 million less than his evaluation, which is at 8 million, right? But I'm sure that'll probably equal to 8 some point, in bonuses and different things like that. But having 16 goal comps in 20 matches, I think is very, very good, very solid. Somebody that not only scores goals but contributes up top as well, which is always good to see. And then he provides another guy with experience from Europe, right? We see in Wobodo, another guy who also had experience. Kubo's got experience in Europe, among other guys. I think this is just a great addition. And talking more numbers, this leaves us technically with 3 million left plus add-ons and whatever percentage that you want to talk about from the Brenner deal, right? So we still have leftover cash from that deal, whatever we want to do with it.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Definitely leaves some room for maybe a defender in the future with, they announced Mosquera is staying the rest of the year. I'm very excited about that. Honestly, that was probably the biggest news of that day when they even announced the other transfer. I'm like, oh, Mosquera is staying. I mean, that's huge for us.
Oh, yeah.
So I think they possibly look at that money for that. I wanted to touch on Bupenza. Is kind of interesting. Played in Turkey in 2020, 2021 season. He's the Golden Boot or leading scorer of that league. It's impressive at whatever level you're playing at that you lead the league in goal scoring. So as a team that's maybe struggled in some ways to score, you have a proven goal scorer that comes in, somebody that's played at the same level as Obi, has probably played against Obi, has some familiarity in that sense. So very excited about him coming in, integrating with the team. It sounds like before he starts, doesn't look like he'll be available until around the July 8th match, which should be at Charlotte. But hoping to see that he contributes well. So Zach, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I applaud the MLS and FC Cincinnati because they're getting somebody in their prime. Like,
Yeah.
not a lot of people or not a lot of teams in MLS get a 26-year-old that's, you said, proven scorer, golden boot from a European, Turkey European. I guess you can consider that.
That counts.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Not a
fantastic for the
21-year-old. Yeah, he's got
right.
experience.
Yeah, it's not
Exactly.
21 or 31. It's in the prime.
Right. Exactly. And he's I guess he could be left or right winger. So we've got pretty much depth all through the front. And I mean, who knows? He could be a good false nine or play that
Yeah.
central attacking mid kind of position if we need to. So I
True.
think
Yeah.
great signing. Never heard of him, but we'll see how he plays. You know.
Yeah, not our job to know who he is. Just bring him in. We'll do our own research and see how he fits.
Throw some
I'm not
stats
gonna
to it.
lie. When we get a player, like, I don't know about you guys, I go and I search Bupenza's FIFA ranking rating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if anything is indicative of their FIFA rating, like half the time they're about right on it. Sometimes, like the younger guys in the MLS, they're not as right about it. I mean, Barrial's pretty low on their rating scale, but Bupenza's a 76, and that puts him right there with the Costa. So it's like
That's pretty
it's a
good.
pretty good rating, yeah. So I'll take that. You know, the FIFA rankings definitely mean a lot more than, you know, the YouTube videos we watched, you know, of real life and like, you know, all that. So,
Yeah, for sure.
so I guess throwing it over to our cards of the week on, I guess, more of a negative note here. Sam, what did you have as your card of the week here? What went on in the MLS or maybe outside the MLS that was kind of either a yellow or red for you?
Yeah, my card of the week. I'm just gonna go with a soft yellow. The rise in ticket prices everywhere in the MLS, just based off of one piece of news that may or may not be finalized. Um, it's not just the Inter Miami home games that I'm talking about that rise exponentially, but every single away game that Inter Miami is a part of, the ticket prices jumped from the average was like $94. It jumped 119% to $207. That was the
Wow.
average ticket price.
Holy crap.
Like that's insane.
Shame
And
we already
I
played
hope
them at home.
well, and I hope that's just the resale like averages or something like that, because that would be a real shame if actual MLS clubs were raising it, not maybe like $5-10 here you could absolutely
Sure.
see, but like exponentially like $50 extra because Inter Miami's coming to town. If Messi is a part of that team, I just see that as my yellow card of the week. I just thought that was a little it just threw me the wrong way. I don't want MLS to be going down that path.
Sam, Messi's coming to your hometown and he's playing. How much are you throwing to watch him play?
Uh, I'd say tops 300.
$300. What's your minimum to go see him?
Spicy.
Free. What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? That's my minimum. I'll go.
The
I'll go.
minimum that you would spend to go to see him.
Minimum I'd spend is probably like $150.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's a soft middle ground. I think.
One of the best players of all time. I mean, at some point, be incredible to actually see him play live.
Yeah, one of the best for sure.
I will say, I've already seen him live, but it was all the way at the top of Camp Nou, so I didn't see him.
Oh,
It's like a little
You
tiny
were there,
speck.
but you weren't there.
Right.
but man, was he moving fast.
Yep. Like a little ant. No, yeah, I think I don't think I'd pay more than 100, honestly.
All right.
Truth be told.
Yeah.
I just one person, like Sam was saying, he's increasing the ticket prices for how many millions of fans and or thousands. I don't know if it's in the millions yet, but
Hopefully.
you know what I mean? I think it's a little bit having to put all that burden on the consumer is a bit far fetched. I feel like the businesses should either discuss that within themselves and eat that, or
Yeah.
But
what if you're a Ronaldo fan? I mean, you're not going to pay that kind of money.
The true. Very true.
Zach, you kind of touched on it earlier. I think there was a little bit of foreshadowing, but what was your card of the week here?
The front finishing has just been, let's say, subpar. So I wish I didn't get a spreadsheet so I could share it on the screen, but I should have. Would have been a great idea, but I've got just some stats.
Spray over the goal.
Right. So I compared Vasquez, Baji, Santos, and Brenner, and obviously Vasquez has had the most minutes played at like almost 1,500 minutes. Only during open play, only 3 goals in open play.
Oh wow.
Santos has played 447 minutes and 4 goals in open play. So he's obviously overperforming. I mean, he's got 1.6 shots on goal per 90. Vasquez only has 1 shot on goal per 90. But then when you compare it goals per minute or every so many minutes, it's Vasquez is at 472 minutes per goal. Santos is 111. And
wow,
big difference. Expected goals for Santos. Actually, I didn't write that one down, but Vasquez and Baji. Vasquez is 6 goals. He should have 6 goals, but he's only sitting at 3. And Baji has 1 goal, but his expected goals is 1.23. So he's kind of like maintaining his, yeah. And obviously Brenner's below par too. He's not played in a while, but in short, I mean, the numbers are saying like Vasquez, he's played every match, but he's not performing at all. So
yeah, let me add to your stats. I saw obviously in the notes, what you were going to talk about, and I was like, yes, great piece of talking point. I love it. So I wanted to add to your stats, and they actually turned out to be the stats that you didn't get. So let me help you out.
Oh, let's hear it. I'm excited.
Yeah, so obviously Vasquez needs to work on some stuff. That's the main guy that we're kind of targeting here, and that new transfer hopefully is going to ignite some more stuff in him, so that way we get the Vasquez of 2022. Speaking of the Vasquez of 2022, 48.8% of his shots were on target. That's almost 50% of his shots being on target. This season it's 34.1. Wow. That's 14% lower than last season. Granted, we're only halfway through the season or close to halfway. But then on top of that, you think about where he's gotten his goals this season. The average shot distance of his shots this season are 15 yards out. Last year they were 13. So his goals were closer last season. He was kind of being more of like how Brenner was, more of a poacher, but he was also using his head a lot more, right? So yeah, those open play goals are down. Obviously this season he hasn't had that many those chances like that, right, from crosses, but it's came off of like a free kick or off of a corner. I just he needs to pick it up in some form or facet, and maybe being called up to the Gold Cup gives another boost of like, hey, let's get going.
Yeah, that was interesting. I didn't realize that it was either further out, less accurate. I thought he was getting in good positions, but maybe the shots that he's even getting off in those good positions aren't quality looks, or they're blocked and they're not counted, or who knows. But that's fascinating. I think that I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant, being a forward myself. I watch a lot of their forward play, because I used to play in that position. But playing in a 2-striker system, I was always taught that your 2 strikers should be together. You guys have heard me say this when we're at the games. If you play with 2, generally you want a bigger body, a hold-up player, and you want a smaller body, somebody that you can play off of the big person, either that's running on or dropping, back to get the ball and turning, and then allowing the other guy to go through. I feel like recently, and maybe in the crew game it was an exception, but I feel like Baji and Vasquez are very similar in their builds, very similar in their play. They're both physical. They try to hold the ball up. They try to get in good positions, but overall, like, I don't feel like they've been working as well together. When the ball is outside on the outside back, we need both our guys coming across. And a lot of times Vasquez is so tired that Either he's not making the run and stretching the defense, or he's called in to make a run back to possess the ball, which is something that he's not, really as good at. So I'm really interested to see how Bupenza comes in, either getting on the ball and allowing Vasquez to have more space behind, or setting him up for a longer distance shot. I think a lot of Bupenza's, I watched his highlight reel, he has a lot of shots outside of the box with that killer left foot that we're hearing about. So really putting him in good positions off of Vasquez is what I'm looking forward to. I hope that Dom Kinnear, he's our striker whisperer, our assistant coach, does a good job at normally telling them to work better together. And I think right now it's been kind of a hodgepodge and they've been just trying to make it work. We're relying a lot more on Lucho, which has opened up his goal percentage this year in that sense. But really, you're right, Sam. Like, your strikers are your guys that should be scoring. They should be getting in positions closer to goal. I mean, telling you that he's 15 yards out from where his shot is just tells you that they're not getting dangerous chances in the box and around, the 18. So I'm really looking forward to see how we can combine this new player as a part of it, or either after this break figure out, hey, we need to attack in a little bit different of a way. I know we've been winning all these games, but let's get dangerous. Let's get better chances in these good positions. So sorry, that was my rant. I'll get off my soapbox now. But
oh yeah, I liked it.
So my card of the week was actually the U.S. Open. The fact that we have to wait, until April or August, to actually get another game. I got so into the fact that we're in a cup run, and then you give us 2 months of a break until we play again. Who knows what kind of form we're going to be in? I think that's unfair. You see all the other comps in the world, like by the time they get to the final games, it's you either wait a week or you wait 2 weeks. In Champions League, it's drawn out a long time, but in Open Cup, I mean, we're waiting until August to play again. I think that's just crazy. You might have more people that are brought in by these other teams by that point. We might have guys that are out and injured, coming off of international breaks, off of Leagues Cup. I mean, I want to see it be done before Leagues Cup. In my opinion, that should be the way that they format that.
Yeah, I think it needs to go the way of like the FA Cup, honestly. Like within England, they do it all in one go. It seems like, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly, um, it doesn't break up anybody's form. It doesn't change player. Like I think there might be a window, but or a
Yeah.
transfer window, but it's a, it's within the cup, and it's not like a break, but like the window's not in between the gap, so you don't get a new player in the middle of the
Right.
cup, basically. Um,
Too many
yeah,
variables.
yeah, I agree. I think it's not a. I mean, MLS does things wacky, as we all know, adding all these
Yeah.
different leagues and whatnot. But yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. I think it could be handled better.
We have another wait after that one when we go and win the Final Four game. We don't play until September.
Yeah, I just the sitting and waiting is definitely going to kill us. As fans that have been waiting so long to taste that winning
Right.
spirit and that winning victory, and if we were to get to the championship, I think we would just oh my gosh, I don't know how many FIFA simulations I'd probably see within that timeline, to be honest with you, and I would have to just have my excitement last on that alone until we
Yeah.
we get that semifinal or final game. But yeah, I just till August, like you were saying, Ryan, there's so many pieces that could be moved around. I mean, during this transfer window, it ending in September for the top 5 leagues, right? And for the MLS, ours is December or November through February, March, right? So it's not as cohesive with the other leagues. So you have to kind of ebb and flow with the other leagues. So if they take somebody that's on our roster, we have to live with it in the middle of not only the regular season, but the Leagues Cup, and you
Right.
have the Open Cup as well, right? So those are the things that we have to deal with, and it sucks. But I'm just, once again, you're going to have to remind yourself, we're in the semifinal. We're like,
Yeah.
I'm just happy to be here right now. Let's enjoy the moment. And,
Yeah.
I can't wait till that comes.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We definitely have to be excited. Like I said, episode name is halfway there. We really are in a lot of ways. There's so many competitions this year. For those not, aware, you have the MLS Supporter Shield, the top team and the league for most points. We're up at the top. In the Eastern Conference, we're the top team. If we play in a playoff, we're fighting for the MLS Cup. We're in the Final Four of the U.S. Open Cup, another, inter season tournament. And then you have Leagues Cup, which is another tournament in July. How do you prioritize? How do you find what is the easiest route to a Champions League spot? Because whatever they want to call it now, CONCACAF League, whatever.
Yeah.
They came out with a new name again. But I know that Pat really wanted us to get into that position to play these other teams, within the Americas. So, if you're in the Final Four, you have 2 more games potentially till you get that spot. Or do you have Leagues Cup where you win, 4 or 5 games in a row and your roster stays the same then? Do we go on the same kind of run that we have been now and win that and get a spot? I mean, shoot, let's win them all. But it's just interesting how it's all laid out this year. And I don't really know if they thought as much into that part of things.
Yeah. And I think this year's also, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong, but I feel like this season has been the longest span of months of playing soccer within the MLS. Is it starting? Is it February to October?
February. Yeah.
I mean, only 3 or 4 months of the off season. That's wild. I seeing that kind of explains why you kind of have to just take each game at a time and just you got to focus the next game ahead. You can't think I guarantee Pat Noonan is not thinking about that game in August. He's now focused back to MLS for a while.
Yeah.
But
I mean, him and Roman have the same mindset. It's the next game, no matter what cup it is, no matter if it's regular season. Next game ahead, those two are on the same wavelength.
Yeah. I wanted to touch briefly on the Messi transfer. With him coming in, I think it's good for the league overall. In some ways, I'm a little nervous about where the rules of the league go, what kind of leeway teams get, including Inter Miami now. What friends does Messi bring in, and how does that look logistically? Inter Miami was on a ban from some of the people that they could bring in, and all of a sudden Messi comes in and poof, everything goes away, and then they can magically bring in all these people. So for a team that's leading the league historically, having the best season of any team ever in the MLS in this era, that's really not fair to me that it's being overshadowed in some ways. I know Messi's an unbelievable player. It's going to elevate the league, but we're going to get overshadowed a little bit. But everyone's been saying, you guys have been saying, one game at a time, one comp at a time. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But Miami's at the bottom right now. We're at the very top. So we don't need to be talking about some of the people down south in the peasant levels of the MLS standings right now.
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think we're always gonna be overshadowed. We're gonna always be the underdog.
Sure.
We've talked about this, I think, multiple times.
Yep.
I think there's always better things to talk about than Cincinnati. Which, I mean, that could be a red card on its own, but
sure.
Sam, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
No, yeah. I mean, adding to what Messi brings, I mean, like I had talked about earlier, it's still in the works. He had said he wants to come to Miami, but the deal isn't finalized, right? So that's the thing. A lot of people I mean,
it's pretty much done.
No, yeah, I'm not saying he's coming to Miami. It's just what are the minute details, right? So that's what we were talking about, Ryan. How is this going to affect the rules? How is it going to affect the salary? How's it going to affect every other MLS team now that he comes? Because Messi reportedly is going to get 35% stake in the club, right? As well as I believe he gets rights to kind of a similar deal to what David Beckham has. Obviously, probably exponentially more. But he has rights to possibly get his own MLS club, right? I think when you look back at Messi coming to the MLS, 10 years down the road, he's probably not playing the MLS anymore. when you look, 10 years down the road, like, are you going to look back at what, similar to, I mean, we're always going to compare it to what David Beckham did, but David Beckham he actually reinvigorated what the MLS was, and he actually brought, a spirit to it. Now, Messi's joining an MLS spirit that is alive, and there's so much fire, and people are actually paying attention from the other top 5 leagues in Europe and going, oh my gosh, like, look at what they're doing in the MLS. Like, the MLS is number 6. Like, we're the 6th best league, right? And I think that him joining, like, does it add to it and we keep going up, or is it just, Messi slots in and takes kind of what, I mean, not FC Cincinnati's, spotlight right now, but other stars that may be out there that are, for instance, like Thiago Almada out of Atlanta, like the kid's having an amazing season, right?
Yeah.
Is that season going to be overshadowed? Like Acosta, amazing season, other players having amazing seasons, but here's Messi, like, and it kind of just sucks.
The question of the best Argentine in the MLS is the hottest topic out there right now. I mean,
it is
it's
for
incredible.
sure.
It's incredible. I had to go up and look. My original trivia question was to see how high up into the standings the all-time greats that Lucho was compared to the other Argentines. Can you guys, bonus trivia question, can you guys name the highest scorer in the MLS that is Argentine or from Argentina originally?
Oh, jeez.
Like for the Portland Timbers.
Nope. Nope.
I'm trying to. Was he on the national team?
I think he might have played for maybe 1 or 2 appearances, but
I
ultimately
probably
wasn't a great player.
No.
So, Diego Valeri.
Oh.
Yeah.
Diego Valeri, now a part of the MLS and Apple TV broadcasts, is the highest scorer in the MLS from an Argentine background. So Lucho's working his way up.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
But at least this year and the seasons that they've had, some good Argentines out there. So,
I mean,
on the note of the trivia question and answer for everyone here. So, again, stating the question, Luciano Costa has been playing the MLS since 2016, dating back to his days at DC United. He's got 49 goals and 67 assists in all MLS competitions. Against which team did he get his first MLS assist? And I believe Zach had locked in Columbus.
Yes, I had the Crew.
Sam had locked in Toronto.
Yes.
It's actually the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Wow. What a tricky answer. What a tricky answer.
I thought
I wanted to guess Canada.
That Lucha's had some good run of form against Toronto or against Vancouver.
Wrong Canadian team.
Wrong Canadian team. Really interesting situation with his first 2 assists in the MLS in that game came in 13 minutes of play.
Immediately.
He came in at the end of the game and had 2 assists, and they won 4-0. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, we got a good one.
So definitely excited about that. I'm excited about our transfer, like we talked about, coming in. Right now, he's playing for the Gabon international team. I think, did I butcher that name of the country there?
Oh, yeah, you're good. You're good.
Close enough.
So they're playing some teams over in France right now, and him and Aubameyang. So a
pretty cool
current Chelsea player, former Barcelona, Arsenal player, are striker partners, as well as Bouanga of LAFC. So he's had some really good attacking players playing with him internationally. And, maybe Bouanga's saying, hey, MLS is pretty good, man. Looking pretty good. I'm scoring a lot of goals. You should come over and start scoring some too. So I think that maybe had something to do with that. And I think that would be pretty cool to see, some of the other African players come in and make some good contributions. Like we've seen Wobodo, being Nigerian. I hope he gets a call up to their team. That would be pretty cool to see too. So
yeah, absolutely.
Any final thoughts for you guys?
Only final thoughts are, obviously FC Cincinnati doesn't play next until Toronto, right? So we'll be taking a break from FC Cincinnati, but we won't be taking a break from this podcast. So you guys will get more podcast content from us, whether that be clips or the episodes themselves. We're not going anywhere until Toronto.
I like it.
From Zach, it's let's keep on keeping on.
Yeah, as Sam mentioned, there's not another game until the 21st, but next week we'll be here. We'll be putting out some content. Next week we're going to cover probably some of the future transfers that we see coming in. Like to touch on maybe our roster and how it looks like going into the second half of the season. And we'll go from there. So thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next week.